Okay, so the objective for today, the first is understanding the concept of single user and multi-user login. And the second is understanding the concept of cookies and fashion in website programming. In this case, we will using the PHP as programming language. Okay, I think all of you already know what is login. All of you have doing login before, I think. Login is a feature that is widely used in the development of modern web application. It's for enter to a computer network or to enter into a project or into into a system. So login is used to identification process to know if the user is have access or not. So user must enter account identity, usually username or email and the password. So if the username and the email or the password is found in the database and it's a true that this person that enter our system is the user of the system, so it will be give access and user can redirect maybe into the home page and can access many feature of the system. Okay. So the one that we must understand is when we are make a login, we must also using database because it will be difficult if we have many user and we store it in maybe in just the array or something like that. So we need using database for this. And in the last week we have learned about the database. So I think it's not hard because you already have a brief uh, uh, explanation about the database. And then we will also learn about multi-user login. So usually in the system is have many role or have many level of the user. For example, in many system, if there have user like for example, in the e-commerce maybe, uh, it must be have user as the customer, and also there is the like seller and maybe the administrator. So for that system we must have many level of the user. Multi-level user is for knowing if this user has access, if this user is the verified user, and then if the user already verified, we will also check what the level that the user have. So if the user have the level of administrator, for example, it will be redirect to administrator page. And if maybe he is or she is a buyer, so it will be redirect to buyer page. Okay, another example about multi-user login is in our e-learning. There is three kinds of user or three leveling of user. The first is student, like all of you. Maybe you just can access the material, you can download the file, and you can upload your assignment. So the feature that you can access will be different with me because I have the level teacher in our e-learning. So for teacher, I can upload the file, upload the material, and I can make assignment that you must submit, and I can also make quiz or examination in our e-learning. So it will be different feature. And for the administrator, usually administrator is the most up level. Usually administrator can access many kind of data and it can access many of features. So uh, For the administrator can also add the user, add the class, or add the course, and many things. So it is the example of multi-user login. And the one that we must know about the login, usually when you doing login, you must enter the password. But it will be very dangerous if the password saved in the database like the usual data. For example, I have password 123, and when it's saved in the database, it's still seen as 123. So the admin can see my password. It can be very dangerous, right? So admin maybe can hack my account or can doing something to my account. It cannot be right. So there is something there is some function that PHP have provided to make encryption or cryptographic has function for changing our password data and encrypt it to another form, so it can be seen as different data in the database. The one that we usually use is MD5. You can Googling it. It has many explanation in the internet. So it's one of the function for security in your application. So when someone input their password, it will be changed into different kind of the data. For using it, you can doing like this, MD5, and then the string or data that you want to encrypt. Okay, until here, any question? No? Okay, so I will give you example about login. The first, when we want to make a login, we must have user database or user table first. And in the last week meeting, we have not made the user data or user table. So for this meeting, we will learn we will make the user table first. Okay. Actually, I have one table here because I want to show you. Maybe I will drop it first. Okay, so for this assignment, for this job sheet, you don't need to make the database or the table from the query in the PHP. I will make it in the PHP my admin only using this user interface. So you can doing the same with me. So I will create the table, name user, and it will have 3 number of column. Okay, here. And then it will have ID. So this for identifier of this user table. Because ID will be the primary key. You still remember about the primary key? Still remember? Maybe come. What is primary key? Huh? You can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Albin, can you help me? Do you still remember about primary key?
Ma'am, I think primary key will let the value. It can contains unique values or null values, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's right, Alvin. I think you still remember primary key will contain the unique value, so it must be different from one data with another data, because it become the identifier. Okay, so for primary key, usually we can make it AI or auto increment. You still remember what is auto increment?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain to me, Warren, what is auto increment here?
Ma'am, if the data is in auto increment, the number will add automatically. Just example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that.
Okay, true, Warren. So it will be add automatically without we define it. Okay, that's true. So for ID, we make it as primary, and auto increment we can give a check here. And then we will have username. Okay, this is for John. Okay, and we will have password. So actually for password, the minimal for MD5, maybe you can search MD5. So MD5, I'm sorry, it's showing in Indonesia. So actually for MD5, it's the minimum of the character is 32. So if you make it 20, for example, it won't work. So it will be failed if your password in MD5 is 20 characters. So the minimum character is 22, but because I want to make it safer, I will give the more character here. Okay, so it will be like this, and we can add the new. Okay, we can add a new table here, which is the user table. And okay, I will give you example about the login form. So actually it's the same with we have before. We just edit it. So I think in the 11 meeting, you also already make a form validation. It's also same like this. In here, we will have form validation to checking if our form, login form, is empty or not. Okay, so this is for to check, and it will be showing error, and the message here if it's have any error. And then this is the login. We have also action. The action is login process, file for processing our login, and then the method is post. Why we are using post? Maybe one of you can tell me why we are using post in the login page. Kimberly, maybe?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I think the method post will post the result or or the output being encoded by the user.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, your voice little bit not clear for me. Maybe because your internet. Post here, it won't be sent to URL, right? And I'm sorry, why I have address here. I think this will be password. Okay, maybe in your job sheet I also put the wrong one. It must be password, not the address. So I'm sorry. And this is for the password. Okay, so it will be dangerous if the password can be seen in the URL. So we must use post to hidden the password data, and it cannot seen in the URL. Okay, and this is the login process. So in our meeting today, you can copy your file from the last week, myconnection.php. Why? Because in the login, we also need to using the database. And for using it, we must connect to database first. So don't forget to include your connection here. Okay, so this is for the connection. And then this is the username, to get the username and the password. Before we get the name of the data from the password, you can add the MD5 here. So it will encrypt your password data. And this is the select to choosing the data from the user database to know if the data already in the database or not. Okay, and this for execute the query, and this to get the number of rows. So why we need to check it? So for example, if the username and the password is not fine, it will be written with 0 data, right? So if we check it and the number is 0, of course it will be error. Okay, so to make it not error, you must check if the number of the data that have the same username and password more than 0, or in this case it must be 1. Okay, so we will try to run this. Because we still doesn't have any data, you can add some data here. For example, I will add the admin, and this is the password. And you don't need to enter the ID because it auto increment, so it will be automatically added by the database. And because we want to make MD5 in our password, so you can using MD5 in here like this. After this, you can click the button go. Okay, so it successfully add one data in your user table. Okay, as you see here, our password here, I put 1, 2, 3, but it will be something like this because our password has been encrypted with MD5 function. That's why when we put the password here, we also make it in the form MD5. Okay, I will try to log in. Localhost is username is admin and the password is 123. It will be redirect to at home, admin home, like this. Because here, when the data is found or it written with one data that have exactly same username and password, it will be redirect to adminhome.html. And when, for example, I put something that they are not in the database like this, it will be showing the error like this. Okay, so this is for login. Any question first? No?
And ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I put address here. Actually, it is password. Must be password. Okay, and next I will give you example about the multi-login. So like I have explained before, for multi-login we have level of the user. So it's not only checking if the user already have a data in the database, but it also checking the level that user has. In this case, we will add the level first in this database. because in that database we just have username and password. So we can adding using this alter table in your SQL tab. Alter table, the table name is user, and we will add the new column, which is which is level, right? And then for the data is varchar 5. Actually, you can make it one only, char 1, because we just have level 1 and 2. And it's not null. Why it's not null? Because it can be empty. So if you don't have any level, it can be showing error in your database. So you must add it as a not null column. Okay, if you have finished, you can click go. And it must be adding one column, which is level here, because admin still doesn't have any level. You can edit it, and you can add it as the level 1. Level 1 is for the admin. Okay, something like this. And we can also add another file for the level 2. So in this practical, we will have two level. The first level is for the administrator, and the second level is for the guest. Okay, so I will input another one here. You can empty it. Okay, so this is for the guest, and the password is maybe this. And don't forget to using MD5 function. For level, I will choose 2. So we have two data in our user table. The first data is the user with the level administrator, and the second is the guest. And I will give you example here. Maybe I will run it first. Login. Okay, I will input the admin first. It will be redirect to the admin page. And then, for example, I put the guest with the guest password. When I log in, it will be showing this is guest page. So it will be showing different page for different level of the user. How to make it? Actually, it is same with we have before in the login. The difference is we also checking the level. So this is to get the data which have the same username and the password that we have entered in the login form. And then we also get the result like this. Okay, we are using MySQL fetch association because it can be more than one, but it must be one actually. And we put it in the variable row. And the row will be get one data, one row with username, password, and level. Because we want to know what level that the user have, we can check it using like this row, and then we get the level for the identifier here, level. If the level is 1, it will be redirected to admin_home.html. Else, if otherwise, if the level is 2, it will be redirected to guest home. And if it's no one of the two of both of them, it will be error, and it will be showing error and return to this page, multi-login page. Don't forget, because we have two pages to redirect, admin home and guest home. We have admin home before. We must also make the guest home for redirect from the user that have level 2. Okay, so it's be like this. And how if we put the wrong password, it will be showing something like this. Okay, so that's all about the login. We already trying to make the login with one level user, so we don't need to write the level. And for the second part, we try to make a different level of the user. Okay, any question? No?